Hello.
Hello there.
Hello, Claire. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm pretty well. Finally, we have some sunshine in Cambridge today.
We've got the same here in Yorkshire.
Fantastic. How's everything getting on with you? The last time I saw you was in Cambridge. You bought your books and you read your books with a lot of children. And my children absolutely love it as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was last year, probably autumn time last year. And since then, quite a lot has been happening with the book series in the last 12 months.
Yes. Can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah. Where should I start? Should I start obviously with a little bit of background to the series, or shall I start with the last 12 months and then work backwards?
Would be great.
Okay. Since I obviously was down at Cambridge and doing the event with Cambridge University in Eddington,
yes,
their sustainable development.
That was a very good event indeed.
Which was fantastic. It was a fantastic event, and Cambridge University have been, I just have to say, fantastic. Everybody in Cambridge has been brilliant when it comes to the book series, from the Waterstone stores to the educational establishments. I went away to Frankfurt and Shanghai book fairs, which are the big book fairs in the world. Wow. And then the book series at the end of the year won a prize. It won something called the Heathrow World of Opportunity Prize. Subsequent to that, a month or two later, a London publisher came to me to make me an offer for worldwide rights to the children's series. And just as we went into the pandemic, we signed that agreement and that deal, which means that since April time, I've been working on many, many more books in the series that will come out now over the next few years, about 30 in total. Wow. And getting the series animated for TV, doing a lot of other writing associated with a similar topic, doing commissions for park installations. So very much on a similar topic, taking the environment and nature, yes, and educating children about it out to as many children everywhere as possible.
Fantastic. For our audience, if you're currently in the UK, can you press #1 on the comments? If you are in other parts of the world, you can press #2. Both Claire and I are currently in the UK. So how's everything getting on with the COVID in York?
Fine, to be honest. Up here in Yorkshire, we're quite lucky because I live between two big cities, Leeds and Manchester. Things have been relatively quiet in the country. Obviously, we're all adhering to the same rules. Schools for children clearly have been affected in the same way. So we have children back at school, but then we have them coming off at different times because they potentially need to isolate for a couple of weeks. Other than that, doing what everybody else is doing, working from home very much like this, trying to look after the community and the people in it, and hoping that over a period of time, with us all doing the same, the situation is going to improve somewhat.
And how do you find this pandemic, which has changed the world perception in different things?
First off, obviously, and knowing, like many people do, knowing some people who unfortunately have been very ill with COVID and some even passed, it's tragic because it's an illness, obviously, that none of us want to get and certainly don't want family members to suffer from. And then, like a lot of people, and particularly being someone who's creative, I tend to look at the big picture and see it. Quite a few positives have come out of it that maybe were unexpected.
I would love to hear.
Things like straight away doing the work I do, people commenting all the time on the fact they're spending more time in nature and they're finding that's helping their physical and mental well-being. They're taking children out to nature because that's what's available to them. If there aren't enclosed recreational activities, then they're taking them for walks or to the countryside or and I hear that quite a lot because of the work I'm doing, the benefit people are taking from nature, which obviously is wonderful.
I think parents can work from home most of the time, so they can bring their kids. Yeah,
absolutely. And whilst adapting, I know was very difficult because working with youngsters at home for us all is very challenging. I noticed as well, yes, they've got more time with the children. I live next door to countryside in a big park. There's definitely been a greater number of children over the duration in there. And it's something people constantly talk to me about, that actually, whilst they appreciated nature, they've been forced to appreciate it all the more in this circumstance.
For any parents, you have taken kids out, can you say yes on your comments if you have taken kids out to the nature or to the forest or to any green? Hello. Some technical issue, which is expected.
Right.
But yes, we have our team here. Which will help us to cut it. Oh, Dr. Lau is calling me. Hello, Dr. Lau, we are online. Would you like to join us?
Oh, sorry. What program are you now?
I'm interviewing Claire, the children's book author.
Okay.
Yes,
I see. So I drop Brian's and then I'll join you then.
Okay, bye-bye.
Sorry.
Bye-bye. Oh, it's just Dr. Lau from Hong Kong trying to call me. Yes, we work together to help a lot of parents and students to come to the UK for boarding school or day school.
That's wonderful. And it's wonderful that we're all doing it this time. I've been in sort of contact with India, the States this week, and the ease with which we can now do this to help each other is fantastic. That's something else that's come up. Thank goodness for the technology, because we're all using it so with such rapidity and such simplicity every day. So
yes. Yeah, can you share your book? My children just love it.
Yeah, what we've done is the publisher obviously has been working over the last 6 months to bring them out in a new format. So what they're doing is one came out this month and then they're coming out every month or two over the next number of months.
Oh, so there's one book every month.
So yeah, they're reformatting them all. So the new format looks a little like this, obviously. Square.
Yeah, shiny. I have this one at home. My children love it.
Nice, big pictures, obviously. They've recolored some pages to match with the specific content. They've changed some of the fonts. It's very bright, colourful, engaging for children. And obviously quite simple and robust for parents to keep at home, carry around and keep in school with them. And then at the end, the all-important bit, obviously, is the questions, which just prompt the start of a discussion about what the children have read in the story. It's very much a fictional, fun story, but all of the stories are based on scientific fact and are designed, obviously, to have children be inspired by the subjects, feel very positive about the fact that we can find solutions to these environmental issues that we're all facing, and even from a young age, start to develop the right creative problem-solving skills to deal with these issues as they grow up to become teachers, scientists, or indeed anything else, because obviously no matter what line of work you're in the future, the environment and sustainability is going to feature.
It is very important. What makes you come up with this idea at the beginning to write this?
It was a couple of things. Yeah, it was a couple of things. I've written my whole life, and I am a writer and a translator and an educator by background, but I was working on some projects with teenagers and young adults related to charity that were to do with inspiring them to see the environment as quite fun and funky, rather than something a little boring, hugging trees, the sort of old notion, if you will. And when speaking to some of the big organizations, both organizations, people like sort of Adidas, BMW, Tesco, but also some governments, it became clear that there was a lack of means to do the same with young children, because obviously you can't necessarily run projects in the same way with them. They're at home with mum and dad. So I started to write 2 or 3 stories to introduce a single topic to children via an animal main character, because young children relate very much to animal characters. And when I'd done the first 2 or 3, I started to share them with people to say, this is what I'm planning to do. And the response was just astounding, really. People started to come to say, what can I do to help? Is there some way I can use my skill to try and get the word out? So aside from the illustrator, who's wonderful and who I continue to work with and will do for many years, translator colleagues came and said, we will complete some translations. People that I know and work with in animation said we could do a sample animation of the first book. And over a number of years, the support that the series generated was incredible. I was extremely grateful. And obviously it made me think there's clearly a desire and a need for this. So I will write more. And as I wrote more people started to notice. Frankfurt Book Fair, the big book fair, gave me a lot of support.
In Germany, yes.
Absolutely, in Germany. Shanghai Book Fair last year were absolutely wonderful. They invited me over as a visiting author, and it was wonderful to take the books to China, where obviously families are very, very keen, both to educate their children in terms of language, so they often want them to learn English, but most definitely about these important topics as well.
We do actually have over 500 parents in our parents club. What would you suggest? How could we use your books to teach the kids? Can you show us some techniques?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I think it's very important that the children see the book as another storybook. So it's very important that they engage with the story first of all.
Engaging, yes.
So when it's being read to them in English, obviously, because at times there's a bilingual version, so I do understand some parents may do it in 2 languages, but to talk simply about English, the most important thing would be to read it to them with the usual enthusiasm and verve that you would as a parent, maybe putting on voices for the animals, maybe stopping as you go through the book to ask the odd question about what's happening, ensuring that children are engaging with the story as they go through and the characters themselves. Getting to the end of the story, all of them have a set of questions. Those questions are simply to start off a discussion, because obviously with this being something I do all the time, I test a lot of questions with children. So these questions have proven to be very popular and a good way to start the discussion.
Yes.
But then parents and teachers can simply see where it leads, because in my experience, children start to feed back and share their ideas, what they've experienced with a certain topic, what they think about it, what they'd like people to do. And when I did go into schools and go to events, it's incredible that even 1 or 2 questions at the end can bring about half an hour or 45 minutes of conversation with children. In addition, for all of the books at the moment that are out, on my website, there are some free resources that parents can download from very, very young children type resources, colouring in of pictures and things, up to language exercises, gap fill, word matching, and then some free writing about what children may have enjoyed in the story, which of the pictures they liked most and may want to draw. So they relate to children across the age range.
Parents, if you have, no matter where you are in different parts of the world, if you have any questions, it's a good time for you to ask Claire, because she's here now. Claire, I got a question. You got a number of books, children's book. How many languages are they translated now?
At the moment, the first ones that are out have been translated into 12.
12 languages.
Yeah.
And what are they?
They include some of the big ones. So they include Chinese, Spanish, Portuguese, Arabic, French, Brazilian Portuguese, and Portuguese from Portugal, obviously, because quite different variants. And then Romanian, German. So other language, obviously, that maybe are spoken by slightly fewer people. Italian. So a number of the very big world languages.
Possibly my last question. I know you have a number of books, but which one do you like most? I'm sure most of them you love them a lot. But if you need to just choose one.
No, I tell you, I probably would have been able to tell you earlier on this year, and then I started to write the next books in the series, and now we're up to book number 30. And every time I'm writing a new story, and every time the illustrator comes back to me with a new picture, I fall in love with the next new book, because as somebody who's creative, when the idea in your head suddenly is brought to life on the page, you fall in love with that animal and that story. So over the summer, I brought out one about a bee and pollination. And Bella is very, very dear to my heart because it was the summer of the pandemic. Everybody was at home. It was something very, very positive to work on and to share with everybody. So she will definitely be one that's remains for a long time in my memory because this has been quite a unique year. But at the moment, I'm working on 2 set in Africa, one about a locust, one about an elephant. And those characters, now they've been illustrated, are wonderful. There's a panda to come. Every book that comes out and is illustrated tends to be my favorite of the moment. And I have to be loyal. I have to be loyal to all my characters. So I love them all equally.
Yes, I did mention it was a challenging question. If I were you, I would find it difficult to answer. Yes. But I got a question from parents from WhatsApp. She would like to know out of your characters, how much research normally you do in order to write.
Yeah, I do a lot. I'm very lucky. I come from a background where I have access to, and obviously I've increased this access now, to people who work at the top of their field in science and the environment. So I'm able to research not only online in the way we're all able to, I'm able to speak to people who work in climate science, the environment, people who run wildlife organizations around the world. I do extensive research to make sure that although these are very fun, imaginative stories and the animals create a solution to the problem in a fun way, it's often based on their physical traits or realistic features of the natural environment. So it's very important that those are accurate. So once they're written, I then run them by experts. For example, talking about the bee book, that was run by the British Beekeepers Association, who were able to feed back to me. We changed a tiny bit of the wording. We reordered certain things to make sure that everything that's talked about in terms of pollination is completely accurate, so that children are learning the science as well as learning about creativity and story and problem solving.
You mentioned about creativity. I got the next question is about creativity. How can we read your books and make the students or the children keep their creativity? Can you show us some techniques?
Yeah, some of the things we've done. So if I give you some examples, when I was working at a big bookstore doing an event last year with this book, for example, so just to give you one specific example, we read the story and then we did a few of the paper activities. And then because it's to do with, Hector helps clean up the park, so it's to do with cleaning up litter, the children who were between 3 and 7, 3 and 8 years old, they all made their own litter bin. So they used craft materials and they even used some recycle bits of twig, leaves from the park, things like that. And they created their own litter bin in small format. They were wonderful. Some of them were orange, yellow and green of autumn. Some of them looked like spaceships. And then they took that home with them, obviously, to explain to people at home what they'd been reading about in the story, why it was important that we utilize bins. And really with these stories, and it's wonderful as a creative, there's no boundary. You take the topic and you as an adult simply think, well, how can we play and do something fun to reinforce whatever the child enjoyed in the story? They often will tell you, oh, well, I really like that they used the litter bin. So you do something based on that. In other books, we've done other things where with bees, book about bees, we've had children cut out the bees, obviously. We've had them go around plants and flowers so that they can learn the names of some of them, so that they can learn how pollination happens using a bee, obviously, to replicate the system of pollination. All sorts of very fun things like that, really, so that children are interacting with something through play almost.
Yeah. You know, Claire, I have your book about the park. I think a few months ago, just before the lockdown, I brought it to the park. and read the book with my children, and we count them together.
That's a wonderful notion. And what's a little bit odd this year is last year I started to be invited around the country to do outdoor events, which I thought was absolutely perfect for the book series because of the nature of the content. You're not the only person this year that has said to me, we've been in the park or we've been in the countryside all summer. I've read a couple of your books in the countryside with my children, and I can't think of a better environment to read the books in because children appreciate it all the more when they are actually there. I think that is a brilliant idea, and some parents don't actually think necessarily about doing a story time outdoors when they're with their children. I think that's a brilliant idea, Melissa.
Yes, thank you. I think other parents, we should learn we should learn more from the author as well. If you come up with more ideas that how we can read your books creatively, do share with us later.
Of course I will. And the other thing is to keep an eye on my website. I also listen a lot to what people tell me, because it's really interesting when people feedback ideas to me. I like to share those so that people know how to exploit the books. I'm an educationist, obviously. I'm very big on, when children have read a story, running with what you feel they most enjoyed about that story and allowing them to create something. So if they're reading a story about a parrot and air pollution, and you're happening to talk about electric cars, some children will say, well, I want to go to the toy box, the Lego box, and I want to make an electric car now. That's a brilliant way of continuing to talk about the topic in the story that you've read. And so whilst I understand prescriptive education and we need to introduce them to activities, once you've done one or two that are slightly more traditional, I do believe children are very good at saying, well, this is what I remember from the story, and this is the aspect I would like to focus on. And I really believe in letting them do that.
That's fantastic. If you like Claire's book, you can visit her website, which is on our Facebook. We put it on the Facebook last night, and on LinkedIn and on YouTube as well. You can also join us for our 童書英國家長會. We have a parents association with Parents Club for anyone who love reading books, not just English books, but different types of books across the world. It could be Chinese. So currently we have 576 members, and you're welcome to join us. It's free of charge. We'd love to hear from you as well.
That would be wonderful. I shall do that. Thank you so much, Melissa.
Thank you. So we will see you next time, Claire. Hopefully we'll have you back next time.
Okay, take care all, and have a lovely rest of day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.